Mario Kart, the only series that wouldn't dare forget about Waluigi. Oh, wait. Yes, Mario Kart is one of the gaming series almost everyone on the planet knows about. I mean, the Mario games were successful in the platformer scene. What difference does it make if we throw a kart in? And it works really well, providing players with the emotions of excitement and enjoyment that immediately just turn into emotions of anger and depression. What did I even hit?
What?
But regardless of my emotions and the behind-the-scenes bribery that I'm certain occurs with the Lakitu, Mario Kart holds a special place in my heart, especially one game in particular, Mario Kart DS. The Nintendo DS was my first ever step into the world of Nintendo, with Mario Kart DS being the third ever game I got, aside from the only New Super Mario game with a slightly different soundtrack, and a certain SpongeBob Atlantis SquarePantis game that I spent a bit too much time playing. But I would have to say that Mario Kart DS was probably my favorite Nintendo DS game of all time that isn't a Pokemon game. So let's take a good look at this Mario Kart game and see what it has to offer, where it stands as a Mario Kart game, and maybe determine if there's anything that would be nice to see make a return from these games. Here we go! Oh my gosh, the nostalgia. Mario Kart DS was released in 2005 as the latest entry for the Mario Kart series. At the time, I was just happy that such a thing like Mario Kart existed because, well, I was a kid. But looking at it now, it did have a little bit of a hill to climb because of the previous game. Yeah, Double Dash isn't the best-selling Mario Kart game out there, but it was a pretty damn good one as it changed up the game with 2 players on 1 kart. But I swear, it was a skill to be able to control those karts using a GameCube controller. With Mario Kart DS, yes, it was exciting, but obviously it was expected to be a little more toned down since it was on a handheld. What would happen if Mario Kart DS tried to keep 2 players in 1 kart on the screen? Here's a convenient demonstration. Exactly. But no matter what game it is, there's still that excitement of seeing everything that's in store, from the game modes to the character additions to the tracks themselves. It's just quite the sight to see all the Mario characters come together and fight to win the Grand Prix. And by all the Mario characters, I mean 8 Mario characters. With the exception of Double Dash, you always had the exact same 8 characters to choose from, with the only difference being that Koopa was in the first game and then Wario stole its spot. Now in Mario Kart DS, you still had to start with the same 8 characters, and unfortunately, Koopa was still not good enough to make the cut again. Better luck next time, champ. Not to worry though, because the lineup got even better with some new additions. You have Daisy, the one princess who just refuses to actually show up in another Super Mario game. Waluigi, their excuse to not put him as a playable character in Super Smash Bros. You got Dry Bones, which is a scary addition when you realize Koopa's absence. And Rob, the robotic operating buddy, which is honestly one of the coolest additions to the Mario Kart series. Now it's commonly known for being a character in the Super Smash Bros. Series, but I really do wish they brought back Rob for another Mario Kart game. They also added Shy Guy, but unfortunately, the only way to actually play a Shy Guy was through DS Download Play. Only those who played Mario Kart DS without the cartridge could be Shy Guy. If you played on the cartridge, you can't choose Shy Guy, which just doesn't make any f***ing sense. But whatever. As for the other additions, they have to be unlocked in order to be able to choose them. And let me tell you, unlocking them is a fucking pain. For Dry Bones and Daisy, you had to get the gold trophy for all the Nitro and Retro Cups respectively in 50cc. Is that a hard task to do? No. But do you know how painful it is to play 50cc after years of 200cc? It's so freaking slow! For me, playing Mario Kart at 50cc is the equivalent of going up against that one fisherman with 6 Magikarp on the team. It's a choice I can make, but I'd rather not. Now for Waluigi, you need to get the gold trophy in the Special Cup, but in 100cc, which is just slightly more tolerable. Plus, it's Waluigi, not unlocking him as a crime of its own. As for Rob, you will have to get all gold in all the Nitro tracks in mirror mode. Oh great, I had fun with this one. Now each character has their own kart to choose aside from the standard kart, and the more you play in the Grand Prix, the more you unlock, until eventually you can have any of the characters choose any of the available karts. For me, my personal favorite karts were literally all of Mario's karts, being the classic B Dasher, as well as the Shooting Star, and I really liked the Rob BLS. I don't know why this crazy looking kart was so good, but it was. Also, a special shout out to Waluigi's kart, the Gold Mantis. You can't tell me you hate seeing this thing. Now, if you're one of the lucky people who thought they struck gold by not getting the game and playing a Shy Guy, tough luck, because you are not allowed to choose any of the karts other than the standard. Is it a big deal? Probably not. Is definitely what you would say if it was a big deal. But it's time to talk about what Mario Kart really is all about, the game modes. Mario Kart DS consists of quite a few game modes, some familiar and others that are actually really interesting that I kind of wish would make a return. But let's begin with the one that everyone knows about, the Grand Prix. player competes with a bunch of bots in a race to win each cup available. And with every new entry to the series, this is always the first place to go to experience all the new tracks the game has to offer. Some that will go on to become quite memorable, and others you wish would burn in a fire. Mario Kart DS introduced 16 new courses to the series, so let's not waste any time. Starting with the Mushroom Cup, we have Figure 8 Circuit. Every game starts off with a very simple track that actually feels like a racetrack with an audience everywhere and racing signs left and right. In other words, kind of boring. Yoshi Falls. I actually like this track quite a bit. It's not a long track to go through, nor is it an insanely intense track with twists and turns. It's just a nice ride with waterfalls rushing down and a giant Yoshi egg right in the middle. Cheep Cheep Beach is another one that just feels nice to go through. Racing by the beach with the rising tides, going through water, and the tropical portion of it is quite nice. Not really any big obstacles other than your local crabs and a few bouncing fish that look like what would happen if you pumped too much air into a Magikarp. But other than that, it's a nice, relaxing track. Then we have Luigi's Mansion, which is honestly a wonderful track. You literally go through Luigi's Mansion, which is followed by a spooky outdoors portion. There are quite a few obstacles, from the tight turns to the moving trees to the very slippery mud that guides you straight into one of the moving trees. But I absolutely love this idea for a track. Moving into the Flower Cup, we start with Desert Hill. I f***ing hate this track. Many desert tracks in Mario Kart are the absolute worst, and this was no exception. Pokey everywhere, which isn't really a bad problem, but turning through the sand dunes is literally a nightmare. And to make it worse, this f***ing thing is here. I hated the stupid sun in Super Mario games. Now I have to deal with it here? But then things are somewhat redeemed with Delfino Square. You actually race through Delfino Plaza from Super Mario Sunshine. From the main plaza to the tight alleyways with very tight turns and this one secret shortcut I almost never take because I epically failed the final turn. It's just a wonderful track. Then we have the legendary track itself, one of the greatest tracks to feature in the Mario Kart games. Waluigi Pinball. You literally race in a pinball machine with Waluigi's face right there. It's a wonderful track to go through, seeing all the lights shining, having the pinball literally chase after you, and even having the flippers move the pinball around. I swear this track is incredible. Please bring this back, Nintendo, please. Then we have Shroom Ridge, a nice road on the edge of a cliff. What could possibly go wrong? Anyways, it's pretty alright. Not much difficulty from the track itself, but these poor vehicle drivers just trying to get to where they gotta go, and the Mario crew are like, hey, let's just race here, cause why the f not? Moving into the Star Cup, we have another iconic track being DK Pass. In terms of the names, I always get DK Pass and DK Mountain mixed up. But here in DK Pass, it's all covered in snow as you scale up the mountain. You've got rolling snowballs, idle snowmen that pop in the last second, and I honestly need confirmation on this, but every time I went up this specific hill to get the lone item block, no matter what place I was, and yes, that does include first place, I would always get a high quality item, such as 3 mushrooms or even a star. No way this is just my game. This has to be like a tactical block or something. Remember that stupid TikTok clock level from Super Mario 64? Then you'll love TikTok clock track. Taking reference to the 64 level, this is actually a pretty nice track to go through, and it's not so difficult. Sure, there are a couple turning clock hands and gears along with the swinging pendulum, but that's all you really have to prepare for. It's not too bad. I actually really like this overall idea, and the song that plays is actually pretty good. Then we have Mario Circuit, which is a general race taking place literally outside the princess's castle. There are quite a few tight turns, and for some reason the princess thought that piranha plants would make good decor for the castle. But hey, who am I to judge? It's not like I took 2 courses on horticulture and landscaping back in high school. What would I know? Finally, for the Star Cup, we have the Airship Fortress. How cool is this track? Driving through the airship, getting launched by a cannon, spiraling down the tower, and you can't forget about the constant launching of bullet bills and rocky wrenches popping out of the track. Absolute chaos is much appreciated. Finally, for the Nitro Grand Prix is the Special Cup, starting with the amazing Wario Stadium. With an enormous crowd watching, you go through an entire course that feels relatively similar to a BMX track with many jumps, speed boosts, lots of turns, mud everywhere, and spinning fireballs because it's not a true racing experience unless you literally burn the competition. Remember racing around the princess's plant-infested castle? If you thought that was fun, then how about racing in her garden instead? With hedges and flowers everywhere along with Chain Chomp running loose, it's quite a decent track, but there really isn't much to it. Only real shortcut involves going through flowers. But I gotta be real with the castle staff for a second. This is one of the ugliest looking garden sculptures I've ever seen. I don't know who's responsible for this. I just want you to be aware that I know you tried your best, Bowser's Castle. Every Mario Kart game needs the big boss to have his big castle involved in the action, and the DS is no exception. With a couple thwomps here and there, along with lava everywhere. Oh my gosh, I'm not trying to rhyme. You go through the castle grounds with moving platforms, this moving cylinder thing that turns, and that's about it. For one of the final stages, to me personally, it's not necessarily one of the most difficult tracks to go through, as it really just relies on getting your turns down and avoiding the thwomps. And a little fun fact, the CPUs for some reason refused to take the shortcut that's all the way in the back of the hall with the rotating platform. It's not like you'd need a mushroom to go through it. Anyone could enter and honestly save a lot of time. But finally, we arrive at the last track, and it's not a Mario Kart game without the iconic Rainbow Road. One of the most colorful tracks and often one of the most difficult, and this pretty much lives up to both of those standards. This can honestly become one of the most annoying stages to race in, especially if you go up against any heavy karts. In this game, the weight of the kart can have some insane perks and consequences. Not going to go too much into detail, but it's sort of a given that a lighter kart will get pushed around more easily by a much heavier kart. However, this game can be really brutal with the idea of force, because some matchups where a heavy kart meets up with a lighter kart will sometimes result in the lighter kart getting launched to the side. And that is honestly one of the scariest things to think about when playing on Rainbow Road. You could be having a typical drive on Rainbow Road where everything's going swell, and then all of a sudden a giant kart just rushes past you and launches you to the side. It's honestly so annoying. But when you do it to other players, oh, it's enjoyable. Oh, I went a little off course there. I'm not trying to make these puns. Okay, look, overall, it's a good Rainbow Road. Beware the turns, beware the heavy karts. And with that, those are all the brand new tracks added to Mario Kart DS. But we aren't done yet, because Mario Kart DS did something pretty neat. They added another Grand Prix dedicated to retro tracks. That's right, another 16 tracks, all based on tracks from previous games. Are they any good? Let's just speed run through this. Starting with the Shell Cup, we have Mario Circuit 1. This is yet another boring beginner's racetrack. 4 sharp turns and 1 long turn. That's it. Then there's Moo Moo Farm. You like cows and Monty Mole? Oh, you don't. Do you like horribly drawn circles? Peach Circuit. Remember racing through her garden? Well, she didn't like you running over those flowers, so now you gotta race as far away as possible from the castle. However, this track is actually a bit difficult because of the insane number of turns you have to make, but at the very least, it's tolerable. And the reason I said that will be understood very shortly. Finally, there's Luigi Circuit, an incredibly simple figure-8 track, but hey, at least it's got a bit of life to it rather than just a road, some blocks, and a random hill in the background. I'm being very mean to the classic tracks, but I stand by every word. Moving to the Banana Cup, we have the Donut Plane 1. Another boring track with a couple turns, and that's it. Literally, the only way you could mess up going around this track, other than messing up a turn, is if you went into the water. And if you find yourself going into the water, then we need to have a talk. Frappe's Snowland is the next track? I don't know if I said that right. Anyways, the problem here isn't that it's boring, it's annoying. The real trouble really comes because of the very slippery conditions of the road caused by the snow. The thing that sucks is that with this game, the moment you hit a wall, any momentum you had is completely gone. And oh boy, are there walls of ice and frustration. I guess the plus side is that there's snowmen everywhere. Wait a second, who made this? Bowser Castle 2, at last a stage where the background isn't just a void of depression. Overall, it's actually a decent course. A couple of thwomps all around, jumps over lava, no big complaints from me. Baby Park, oh boy, it's everyone's favorite stage. It's one of the most notorious tracks in all of Mario Kart, and that's what makes it incredible. The sheer chaos throughout this entire track is what Mario Kart is all about. This is why I will always respect Double Dash. Over in the Leaf Cup, we start with Koopa Beach 2, which could have easily been another boring track, but they added a water aspect, which adds a little bit of difficulty. However, after the water portion, there is quite literally nothing special to this track. But then there's Choco Mountain, a nice drive through the mountainside with falling rocks and even the possibility of falling off a portion of the track that puts you all the way in the back. But as long as you learn the ways of getting good, there's nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, there's a lot to worry about in the Game Boy Advance's Luigi Circuit. This track is tough to play in 150cc. The rain makes everything slippery, but the worst part is the amount of insanely tight turns that you have to make. Remember when I said Peach's Circuit was tolerable? This is why. I cannot stand going through this stage with how slippery it gets. To make things worse, because clearly this wasn't difficult enough, they added puddles that actually make you spin out if you drive over them. I wouldn't say they were tactically placed to mess with you, but one wrong turn into those puddles and you might as well just call it a day. Honestly, big to Nintendo, please just Never remaster this track, please. I don't need to see this in Mario Kart 8 DLC. I'm fine skipping this one. Next is a Mushroom Bridge, and to be honest, I'm actually quite disappointed. Why did they remove the ability to drive up on the bridge? This was like the best thing ever, where it either made you look like the greatest Mario Kart driver ever or the biggest idiot. Finally is the Lightning Cup, starting with Choco Island 2, and honestly, this is my most disliked track in the entire game. It's basically the same exact issues I have with GBA Luigi Circuit, only it's even worse because you're sliding on sand, followed by sliding on mud, followed by sliding and bumping on many bumps. Oh, I hate it. Then there is Banshee Boardwalk, a very spooky track where the main obstacle is driving through a horde of bats, which for some reason was too difficult for me that I fell into the hole that almost nobody falls into. Sky Garden follows as you drive through the clouds. Really not a difficult stage, but it does feel like a nice stage to drive through. Don't know why Luigi decided to promote in a blimp this high up in the sky, but hey, you do you, my guy. And finally, we end with a proper track, being Yoshi Circuit. I don't know why Nintendo doesn't make any more of these tracks, because it's literally in the shape of Yoshi. Sadly, they took away the tunnel shortcut in the stage, but still, it's an overall fun time to be had. So overall, how are the tracks in this game? Pretty good in my opinion. In terms of the newer tracks, there were quite a few of them that I actually really enjoyed going through. Obviously, Waluigi Pinball and Wario Stadium were the two everyone will remember from these games, but tracks like Airship Fortress and the Bowser Castle are just as enjoyable. Yeah, I kinda called out on the Bowser Castle track earlier, but that's likely because I played this course to death when I was little. It still doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the track. Even tracks that weren't necessarily hard were still great additions to the games. Tracks and references to the other games like Delfino Square and Luigi Mansion were just really cool to see. And maybe this is just my own preference, but for some reason I really like courses that have the Mario crew go up against the concept of traffic. But the issue for me comes with the retro tracks. Let me start by saying that they didn't need to put these tracks in the game, so the fact that they did is incredible on its own. And some really good tracks were added and remade quite decently onto the DS. However, there are some courses that just felt a little lackluster. For the SNES tracks, these are the ones that just weren't that interesting. Either the course had nothing going on, had one cool obstacle and then nothing going on afterwards, or it was Choco Island 2. I kind of felt the same about the GBA courses. The only difference is that they really loved adding turns at every possible moment. I guess Bowser Castle 2 was kind of alright. Regardless, it was a solid addition of tracks, and to be fair, there is probably only so much you could do with the DS. Now with better, yet somehow still outdated hardware, tracks can be full of many exciting features and sceneries that they didn't previously have in the older games. But for what the DS was capable of, and for what the purpose of the Retro Grand Prix was for, which was just to bring over older courses in the closest state that they were, it does a great job. Now, finally moving away from the Grand Prix themselves, there are other ways to enjoy these tracks. You have time trials with the aim of getting the best time you could possibly get in any of the tracks available. Now, an interesting thing to take note of is that the number of mushrooms you get may differ when you're doing the time trials, and this is because of the item stat. Each cart may have a different item stat, and if the item bar is full, then you are most likely to get 3 mushrooms, and if it's not as full, you're probably going to get 1 or 2. The next mode is Versus Mode, which is basically you set up the rules and play as you please, deciding the class, the computer difficulty, how courses are decided, how many races or wins are necessary, and whether to split players into teams. Nothing too crazy, but it does beat going through each cup and playing the same 4 courses in the same order. Also, I really went crazy when I played this in the past by going 32 races in a row. Ah, the good times when I actually had all the time in the world. I miss it so much. Then comes Battle Mode, which is actually a pretty fun time. In Battle Mode, there are 2 games that you choose. In Balloon Battle, it was all about going around and popping all the opponent's balloons while making sure you keep all yours. Yes, it's quite similar to the one currently in Mario Kart 8, but the cool thing here is that you could blow up some spare balloons to ensure that you don't just get knocked out so quickly. And this is where the mistake... That's right, Brian screwed up, because he knew that in order to blow up a balloon, you needed to use the Nintendo DS's mic, which, in the nicest terms that I could use for Nintendo's sake, the DS mic was, absent. However, Nintendo thought about this instance where the microphone might be irresponsive or absent, and allowed for you to blow a balloon just by holding down the select button. Oh well, nothing better than playing on hard mode, I guess. Now, for the other game mode, being Shine Runners, you have multiple shines to collect on the battlefield. However, with a time limit, each round will look to eliminate whichever player or players have the lowest number of shines, leaving it as a battle to see who can carry the most shines throughout the very end. Now, of course, battle mode also consists of its own courses to go through, and some of these are actually pretty good. First one is literally literally a Nintendo DS. I don't know why they don't do this anymore. Imagine playing on a Nintendo Switch. That would be sick. Twilight House follows, which is just a floating home with many rooms to drive through and, of course, cliffs to fall off on. Then comes Palm Shores, where you battle on an island with water levels slowly rising and falling. It's also the place where I humiliated the CPUs by not only sealing their balloons, but launching them to the edge of the map, which forces them to lose another balloon, which means they lost 2 balloons, thus their exit from the match. Did I need to disclose such details? No. Tartup is the next one, and I don't know who baked this thing, but hey, it's a fun course to go through, I guess. Block Fortress from the N64 follows, and this is honestly one of my favorite maps to do balloon battle in. Not only is there high ground that you can reach, but when I was little, my friends and I would take a color that we would call our base, and basically we would turn an innocent balloon battle into all-out war. And believe it or not, it's actually the last one, being Pipe Plaza, a whole zone where if you go through one of the green pipes, you pop out through another one. It's pretty alright, you know, it's not my personal favorite, but it's not that bad. But overall, the battle mode pretty much provides something extra outside of the usual racing around the tracks, and for the most part, it's actually pretty fun. Of course, it's not as fun if you're playing alone, and unfortunately, that wasn't an available option when playing in Wi-Fi mode. Not that it matters now. However, if you are looking for some genuine single-player action, then look no further because this game surprisingly has an answer to this, being Mission Mode. Mission Mode is exactly what it sounds like. You complete in certain missions that take place on different tracks and areas to progress in the game. And these missions can actually be pretty cool, with tasks such as collecting all the coins or driving backwards through a track, which must be done as quickly and efficiently as you can in order to progress to the next stage. And at the end of each level, you reach a boss stage where you go up against an enemy and attempt to defeat them. It's a surprisingly fun time to be had, and also kind of useful in learning some of the tricks in this game, such as figuring out how to cut down a couple seconds on a certain track, or just getting better adjusted with the controls and drifting mechanics. Overall, this was something quite unique to see from a Mario Kart game, and honestly, I wish they would do it again. To complete some missions that involve the new mechanics of the newer games, along with the addition of some new bosses, that would be wonderful to see. When you look at this game as a whole, there are things on both sides of the table to look at. In terms of the graphics, I definitely wouldn't call them spectacular. Again, this is the Nintendo DS, so graphics were expected to take a hit either way. You someone who played Sword and Shield and hated how the trees looked there? Oh, well, you'll love looking at these. I don't even think they're three-dimensional. But as stated many times with other games, for me, it's not the graphics that point to an enjoyable game. It's the experience, the adventure. Somehow, there was an actual adventure in this game, so 10 out of 10 already. But aside from that, it's still an enjoyable Mario Kart experience. CPUs in the races will actually put up a good fight, and though there are a few bland tracks in the game, there are plenty of them that are a joy to go through. As a Mario Kart game, I would say this stands out right in the middle of the series. It's a fun experience, but it also has shown a bit of its age. The series has come a long way ever since. I mean, tracks nowadays are just loaded with beautiful sceneries, crazy maps, and crazy mechanics such as gliding or anti-gravity, and quite a large cast of characters. Still, I really appreciated the time I spent with Mario Kart DS, and it was another building block for the Mario Kart series. I mean, this game introduces the Retro Grand Prix, which now gets us excited to see what twists they'll add when they remake older tracks in future games. This was also the first Nintendo game to support online play, which was huge at the time. Nowadays, not so much. So, as a wonderful clickbait thumbnail would say, should you play Mario Kart DS in 2022? Honestly, why not? It's another fun Mario Kart experience, and if you're doubting, then I have just the thing that'll get you hooked in. One feature I'm sure some of you have been screaming at your screens for me to bring up. The biggest thing that this game has to offer that will 100% never return ever again to the future Mario Kart games, the Emblem Maker. In this game, you could have an emblem shown on your kart while you're racing. That's right, you could let your creativity run wild and create your own beautiful emblems to represent you while you race in this game. And if you are thinking about the statement I just said, you now understand what the problem is and why Nintendo will never bring this feature back again. And if you still don't understand, let's keep it that way.